I am having all kinds of technical difficulties. This is what I need to do. Okay. All right. Oh my gumdrops. I thought I wasn't even going to make it over here. Listen, welcome to the Good Fight every Tuesday night. Even through the technical difficulties, we are still here. Yes, we are still here. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know what's going on with StreamYard today. I've had technical difficulties all day long. It started with the radio station, but I'm so glad that you are here and I am here and we are here together. Thank you so much for joining us for the Good Fight. We are here to wrestle with our faith. We're here to ask ourselves the question, how does our faith show up in our daily interactions, human to human? And how does our faith inform the way that we live, the way that we vote, the way that we patronize, like all of the things? And so that's what we're talking about. We're trying to decolonize our faith so that we are not living out of fear. We are not living out of indoctrination. We're not living out of following some kind of doctrine, but we are giving ourselves over to what we believe, our convictions, and allowing them to speak through us. And so thank you again for joining us. If this is your first time joining us for the Good Fight, welcome, 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 welcome. And if it is you come all the time or you've been here before, welcome, welcome, welcome. There are ways that you can engage with the Good Fight on tonight. One of those ways is to find yourself, to locate yourself in the story. I was just watching the Lorax over the weekend, and there's a story. There are like 3 different main characters. I don't know how many main characters, but one of them I felt like was a colonizer. One of them I felt like was the rebirth of a new generation. One of them I felt like was speaking for the people. And I was trying to ask myself, now, which one of these characters is you? And I would have been the Lorax. I'm the one saying, hey, you need to get out of here causing this harm to our community because we don't play that. And even when I wasn't listened to, I wasn't heard, and I had to watch the people be displaced. Like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, how do I fix it? Like, that's me. And so that's what I'm asking you to do. Look, think about the characters in the Bible and the roles that they are playing and ask yourself, which one is you? And then you can also interrogate yourself to say, is this how I want to be? Am I happy with this? And if not, you can take steps, or you can just think about it until you feel led to take some steps or not. The other way that you can engage with a Good Fight is to look through a window. One of the things that is not happening in our world today is that we will not center the stories of people who are different than we are. We want to pretend, we want to believe that our story is the story. Our story is the one that matters. Our story is the one that's true. Our story is the one that's accurate. And that's not the case. All of us are living together, coexisting, and we have different experiences, and all of them are worthy to be centered in somebody's space. And so I'm asking you to take a look at the characters. They're not you. You've never been in this situation. You don't know what you would do. But that's not the question. The question is, can you receive their story and not dismiss their story, not interrogate their story, not antagonize their story, but just receive it as the gift that it is? And then whatever the Spirit chooses to do with it, that's between you and the Spirit, or whoever your God is, however you practice your faith. I'm good however you practice your faith. A third way that you can engage is to walk through a door, so that this conversation is not the end of a conversation, but it is the continuation of a conversation, or the beginning of a conversation that will continue to resonate with you throughout your lives. Who knows, today, tomorrow, next week, next year, whenever that happens for you. And then finally, the way that you can engage is to, the way that you can engage, we'll cut this piano off, is to comment. And we can all just be engaged in the comments, and we can have conversation around them, because I'm going to be right there in the middle of the comments. I want to know what's going on. So today, we're no longer talking about Jesus as political prisoner. We spent 3 weeks on that, and I feel like 3 weeks is enough. But I'm preparing for my sermon on Sunday. I'm now preaching every second Sunday at New Beginnings Church of Central Arkansas, 4303 North Little Rock, right here in the state of Arkansas. And I try my best to engage other people in what I'm thinking and what I'm planning to help me center myself in what I want to say and what I believe I'm being led and called to say in this moment. And so I try to ask people, I ask the Bible, I ask God, I ask the Spirit, I ask people that look like me. I ask people that don't look like me. I ask people that think like me. Like, I really am trying to make sure that I'm getting a full picture. The same way we do when we look at different families of translations. Now, if you are looking at the New International Version in that translation, and then you turn around and look at the Message translation, and then you turn around and look at the King James Version translation, and then you look at the New King James Version, like all of that's the same family of translations. So you're not going to get too much of a difference. It might be a different word here or there, but you're not going to get a difference in the perspective. The perspective is going to be the same, even if they use different language. But if you then bring in the Catholic Bible, so if you're looking at the New International Version, and you're looking at the Catholic Bible, now you've got different perspectives of what's going on. And so I try to use, so in order to get a fuller picture, it's best to look at different families. The reason we stay in the same family is because we're looking for the easiest interpretation, because it helps us understand better. So those are the ways. And so I'm trying to workshop this sermon. And it's about Judas. And the title of this sermon is The Miseducation of Judas. And that's what I'm going to be preaching about on Sunday. But in working through that, what I had to really think about is something that I've been saying a lot lately, but only to one or two of the same people. So I want to say it here so I can get more voices telling me what you think and how you feel about it. But what I've been saying to people is that sin is the currency for the church. Sin is the currency for the church. And so when we talk about what's happening in our churches today, when we talk about how far away from the gospel we are, how far away we are from Jesus, and we have to begin to ask some questions like, what's happening to us? What's really going on in our world of faith that's keeping us from living as free and as holy, however you define holy, as you want. And so what I'm saying and what I'm suggesting that we consider is that not the only reason. For most of us, the reason that we go to church is because we believe that we are sinners. And we believe that sin is something that we cannot avoid because we were born sinners, because we were born in the flesh, and that flesh is always willing and being tempted to do what is wrong. And so because we believe that we are sinners and we believe that we cannot escape sin, that's just the nature of our flesh, then we have to have a Jesus, we have to have a Christ, we have to have the one who will save us, whoever that is, whether it's Jesus or not. But because I'm a cradle Christian, I'm going to use Jesus. But we have to have this Jesus necessary so that we can come to Jesus every single day and ask for forgiveness, every single day and ask to be cleansed, every single day hoping and praying and wishing that God will grant us this day to be fully present as God's servant and to help us avoid temptation, help us to avoid sin. And so that's because that's how we feel. It is necessary that we go to church. It is necessary that we give our tithes. It's necessary that we read the Bible. It's necessary that we pray our prayers. It's necessary that we sing our songs, our hymns, because all of that is tied into living a holy life and being able to escape the snares of sin. But if we were able to say, wait a minute, is that really what the covenant relationship with God is about? Or is that what the church is telling us our covenant relationship with God is about? And if it's the church telling us that, why does the church want us to believe that we are sinners? It's necessary for us to believe that in order for us to continue to go to this edifice, this building that we say that we call church or temple or mosque or synagogue, we have to go to this holy place so that we can become holy ourselves. And then we have to also abide by all the rules that go along with it. Malachi 3:17, Malachi 3:10. Don't get me, it's Malachi 3. Bring all the tithes to the storehouse, that there may be meat in my house, and prove me now herewith, said the Lord, that I will open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing that you won't even have room to receive. And not only that, I will rebuke the devourer for your sake. So I'm going to protect your money when I bless you. I'm going to protect your household when I bless you. I'm going to protect your family when I bless you with one. And so it's necessary for us to do these things so that we can escape sin. So sin is the currency. If we are able to take sin off of the table, what would the church do? How would the church function if sin is no longer why we show up? If fear is no longer why we show up. So sin as currency, fear as currency. So we're living in not really the free gift that God has given to us of life in relationship with your God, but this relationship that is conditional. It's conditional on us following all the rules and crossing all the I's and crossing all the T's and dotting all the I's. And so what I'm asking us to think about, and what I'm trying to gear up to preach about on Sunday, is that we really do have full control over our bodies. And so when we talk about, I think I said this before, I might have said it recently, that one of the things I wish Bill Cosby had never, ever said on the Cosby Show was when he said, I brought you into this world and I'll take you out. And so he was talking about children, because it's my sperm that fertilized your mama's egg, and then that's how you got here. So you belong to us as parents. And because you belong to us as parents, I can decide whether or not you live or die. I can decide all of the things about your life, your destiny. What do we say? One of the things we say is train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is older, he will not depart from that. And so what we've done is we've taken that scripture and we've not said, okay, I'm supposed to guide. I'm supposed to be an example. I'm supposed to lead. We don't say that. We say, no, my child is going to be. This is what you're going to be. You're going to be heterosexual. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a lawyer. You're going to be a preacher. You're going to be a politician. You're going to be successful. Whatever it is that we want for our children, we then try to navigate their lives so that we chart the course for them, not realizing that that is not our role. It is our role to set up the Jesus be a fence all around me. It is our role to set up the fence. It is our role to declare the boundaries, but within those boundaries, we are supposed to give even our children the freedom to come into who they are called and created to be, not who we want them to be. And so this idea that our bodies do not belong to us because there's somebody telling us what we can and cannot do with our bodies, that's what I'm attacking. That's what I'm challenging. And that's what I'm asking you to consider. To consider also challenging, consider challenging it, consider attacking it, consider whether or not you are complicit with it and why. Because there's no judgment here. If that is what you believe, if you believe that you were born a sinner, I'm not going to try to persuade you that you are not. But what I would like to do is offer up some information, but I don't want to make it seem like you're not informed and that you're not educated. Just offer up a different perspective and ask you to think about what I'm saying and see if it resonates with you on some level. And if the answer is no, no harm, no foul. If the answer is yes, that gives you more room to continue to walk through the door with the conversation, because there might just be a change through that door on the other side of that door. And so when we think about our bodies and who our bodies belong to, I think we have to be careful when we say that our bodies belong to God. And the reason I say that is because when you have a situation where somebody is murdered, y'all know I watch the crime shows and I watch reality crime shows, meaning that these are real stories that are happening to real people. And on the series that I'm on now, these are the people who have been impacted by the violence, that they're telling their own story. So you can look them up on Google. You can see, because it's they've edited they've edited the episode so that it can run in the hour or the 30 or the 45 minutes that it's set to run. And so you can see the rest of the story if you read in Google. So that's what I mean by reality. You can actually learn even more about these people and their real lives, because these are real stories about real people that happen in a real time. And so when we're talking about the stories, a person will be murdered. And murdered. The person will be murdered. I'm talking about somebody exacted on them the ultimate act of violence where they took the person's life. And the person who's telling the story will say something like this: well, it must have been God's time. God called them. God called them home. God said that you've done all that you're supposed to do. You have finished the purpose for which you have been sent has been fulfilled, and I've called you home. And then we've got some people who then make it even more flowery than that. We use this poetic language about God plucking the flowers from the garden, and you were the flower, and God wanted this flower back. And we say all of those things because we're trying to fix a very traumatic situation. We got to make it make sense to us, because when things don't make sense, our brains are trained to fill in the blanks. Our brains are trained to take a leap so that the leap comforts us. The leap gives us some hope. The leap inspires us. We have to make that leap, or else it will leave us feeling uncomfortable and confused and discombobulated, and that's always what we try to avoid. And so instead of saying this ain't had nothing to do with God did not say it was time for this person to be murdered. Like, why would God say that? It's time for you to get murdered. Like, I designed your life so that I could lead you and guide you to this place on this day for such a time as this, so that you will be murdered, so I can say, welcome into the kingdom of heaven. So I can say, well done, that good and faithful servant. I meant for you to be killed in this way, and it happened to you. Look at you, soldier. Come on home. Like, it's difficult for me to believe that that's what God would do for us, especially when we quote Jeremiah 29:11. Many of us quote that all the time. For I know the plans that I have for you, says the Lord. These are plans for you to prosper, plans where you are not harmed, plans where you will go forth and do all of the things. Like this, of course, I'm paraphrasing Jeremiah 29, but that's what it says, that I'm giving you a good hope and a good future. And so if you believe that, how can you also believe that God's saying your good future includes you being murdered? Like, we simply can no longer have it both ways. And the only way we've been able to have it both ways is because we're not thinking deeply enough about what we're saying. We're not putting our whole faith to the test. We're pulling out, cherry picking. We're going to church one Sunday out of the month, or we're going to church 4 Sundays out of the month, but we're not even reading our Bibles along with the pastor. We're allowing the pastor to speak to us based on the pastor's understanding, because we've been taught that the pastor is God's representative. So God is speaking to the pastor in some way that God is not speaking to us. And so we owe it to ourselves to listen to the pastor, because he knows what, or she knows, or they know what thus said the Lord. Well, actually, they only know what thus said the Lord to them. They don't know what thus said the Lord to us. Anybody who tells you that God told me to tell you something, I would reject it. I would reject it, because God don't have to go through anybody else. Again, in the Old Testament, the veil was, especially when we have, there was a veil over the eyes. You couldn't really see clearly who God is, because God was so holy in the Old Testament. God was so holy that they didn't even want to say God's name. Like God's name was not spoken out loud, because that's how holy God was to them. And so you could not even look on God's face, because it was the glory of the Lord was overwhelming. There was no way that you could stand it. Your humanity, you're limited by it. So you could not grasp the fullness, the awesomeness, the strength, the power, the good, the evil, you could not, your body couldn't stand it. And so there was a veil over your eyes. But when Christ was resurrected, that's what we claim happened, that the veil was torn. So there's no longer anything separating you from God. There's no longer any veil over your eyes, you can see clearly now. That's what we think. But then we also have the verse that says we only see through a glass dimly until we die and we are face to face with Jesus. Then we can see clearly. So we've got all of this. Okay, wait a minute. The veil is torn, but I still have I still see darkly through the dark glass. Like, which one is it? And so we have all of this happening in the same Bible, and we're trying to make sense of it instead of saying, you know what, this just don't make sense. Like, we are afraid to say that it doesn't make sense, because not only do we have sin as a currency, but I mentioned fear as a currency. I need you to be scared to dare to ask God what's going on. I grew up in the Baptist denomination where they talked about you can't question God. Why can't I question God? What you really mean is that I can't question you, because you know, just like I know way down deep inside, that you are not God. So you don't have the answers. So you don't want me to question you, because you don't want to have to go on the record as saying, I don't know, because we believe that you're supposed to know because you're the pastor. Didn't God call you? Then why don't you know? And so in order for us to continue to feel like we're able to deliver to the people what they expect from us, don't ask me no questions. And let me tell you what thus said the Lord. But I do feel like we have to be willing to say, maybe what we've been conditioned and programmed into thinking, maybe there's a new way to imagine our relationship with God that is not rooted in fear, that is not rooted in sin. It's rooted in the gift that God gave us, which is the covenant relationship, where we can say to God, you are mine and I am yours. I'm committed to you just as you are committed to me. And together we're going to journey until my days are over. And because I've been on this journey, and I know that you've been my companion along this journey, the last thing I'm worried about is going to hell. Why would I think I'm going to hell? Because I committed a sin. Wait, so which sin is it? We talk about the 10 commandments that Moses went up on the mountain and came down with. 10 commandments. And we talk about there are 5 of them that are reaching out to people, like don't commit adultery, like don't bear false witness. Like those are things that are related to our relationships with each other. And so they go horizontally. But then the other 5 of them are about our relationship with God. Like thou shalt have no other God before me. So this is our vertical relationship. And so you have to put those 2 together in order to form the cross. So the cross isn't just you talking about what you're going to do for God. It's also about how you're going to live amongst the people of God as a person of God, so that we can live together and coexist together. And so the 10 commandments, the Bible says that's what Moses came down with, these 10 commandments. And don't forget, Moses had to go up there twice because the people were getting on Moses' nerves so bad. Moses threw them 10 commandments down and broke all the tablets, and we had to start all over again. And even in that, the Bible did not say he sinned and God said Moses was going to go to hell. But what we did is that we took those 10 commandments and turned them into 613 laws that you have to follow. And in order for you to be holy in the Old Testament, you got to be able to follow all 613 of these laws that humanity created. Because if we believe the story, Moses came down from the mountain, from the very presence of God, with 10. So how we get 613? That's because you done added some stuff. And that's the same thing that we're doing today. When we tell people that you can't wear pants, when we tell people you can't wear makeup, when we tell people you got to put something over your head, when we tell people you got to cover out, all of these are laws that we've created to say this is what you must do in order to be in right relationship with God. But God ain't say that. As a matter of fact, if I really want to be honest with you about how I feel, which is what I really want to do, is be honest with you about how I feel, I don't even believe we're supposed to be thinking about the 10 commandments anymore. We got this push. It's already in the train has already left the station with us putting the 10 commandments in all of the classrooms. Why? Why would we do that? Why would we do that if we have Jesus? Because the whole point of Jesus being incarnate was so that Jesus could then be the last sacrifice that has to be made on our behalf. Old Testament, you had sin offerings, grain offerings, animal offerings. You had all of these offerings in order to purify yourself. You had to do all of these rituals in order to be clean, be able to present yourself to God. And even then, when you talk about the church, the way it wasn't the church then. We talk about the way the temple was set up. Even then, only certain people could get to the inner space where God is, closer to the fire, which is what we say now. Others of us had to be way out here in the outer courts. And so we had to have Jesus to come, because all of these rules that we made up as people, could nobody follow them. Think about it. Can you even remember 613 rules that you're supposed to be following? And that is including I think that's including the 10 commandments. Well, let's say maybe it's not including the 10 commandments. So that's 623 rules that you're supposed to be following. Some of us can't even remember what we wore yesterday. We can't even remember what we had on, what we wore to church last week. But yet I'm supposed to remember how to obey 613 or 23 laws. It's not possible. And so God says, look, I realize that you have created a predicament for yourself, but I have the solution. I am the solution. I am going to become flesh. Didn't say become a man, become flesh. I'm going to become flesh, and I'm going to dwell amongst you. And Jesus, as flesh, is going to be the sacrificial lamb, the one that now takes the place of all of the animal offerings, so that we no longer have to go through this again. And so Jesus says, when Jesus comes, says there are only two laws, only two things that we're supposed to be worried about. We're supposed to love the Lord our God with all our heart, mind, soul, and strength. Strength is shown in some of them. Strength is not in all of them, but heart, mind, soul, and strength. I'm supposed to love the Lord with all of me, with every ounce of who I am as human. That's what I'm supposed to do. And the second commandment, which is like unto it, meaning they're on the equal playing field, I'm supposed to love my neighbor as myself. That's it. On these two commandments hang all the law, all 613, all 623, which include the 10 commandments, and the prophets, Jeremiah, Isaiah, Ezekiel, all the prophets that came behind the Torah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, all of the prophets that came after that, everything that they were saying to us, everything that they wrote down that was attributed to them, everything that we can find in the Old Testament is now included in these two commandments. Love the Lord your God with every ounce of who you are, and love your neighbor with that same, it's on equal playing field, with that same fervor, with that same passion, with that same determination, with that same commitment. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And if we do that, whatever laws you're talking about, we're not going to fall prey to them. We're not going to violate them, because of the love we have for God and neighbor on the same level. So yes, I would dare say we don't even need the 10 commandments. I don't even know why you put them in the classroom, because that's not what we're supposed to be living up to. We're supposed to be living up to the two commandments that are about love, because the 10 commandments are still dividing us. Talking about don't kill somebody, don't be jealous of somebody. Like, wait a minute, what? That's not what this is about. This is about love on a scale that we are unable to fully grasp. Who is it? The psalmist David. The psalmist David in Psalm, I really want to say it's Psalm 8. He begins to talk about this relationship with God, and this is him communing with God. So this is because of the Bible, we just have we're just the audience to it. So we get a chance to have a glimpse into what David, as a psalmist, what his relationship is with God. We are just gifted and graced in that way to be able to look in and see what he's talking about. And so in his in this day's communion with God, he says, when I think about who you are, I'm paraphrasing, when I think about who you are, when I just sit with the awesomeness of God, when I just sit with the power of God, when I just sit with the holiness of God, when I just sit with the sacredness of God, I have to admit that it is too high for me. I cannot even reach it in order to understand it. A lot of times we say that we cannot change things, we cannot shift things unless we name it first. Whatever the issue is, we have to be able to name it before we can have power over it enough to change it. But David is saying, I can't even begin to name what this is that you are, because it's too high. I don't understand it. And I'm limited in my capacity as a human to be able to fully grasp it. You are too high for me. And so that's what happened with the Old Testament, with all of these. It's too much. We couldn't attain it. We could not reach the level of commitment and dedication it would take to follow these rules. And God says, so here I come to offer you a solution. Here I come to give you a gift. Here I come to bestow grace upon you. Here I come to let you know it's okay. I knew you weren't going to be able to do that. And that's why I already had this ram in the bush, who is Jesus, to say grace abounds for you. Love me with everything and love your neighbor like you love me. That's all I'm asking for you. So everything else that we're asking people to do, including the tithe, including the prayer, including the hymns, including the feeding the hungry, all of that we are being asked to do as an obligation. That's not what we're being called to do. Not as an obligation. What we do for God, we do out of gratitude. Let's just think. Tell me if this is true about your life. I don't know. It's true about mine. But there are some people in my life who are so grateful for the gift of presence. The fact that you spend time with me, the fact that you have conversations with me where you are vulnerable and transparent and open and honest, the fact that you center me in your life, the fact that you listen to my story and you hear me and you respond in a way that lets me know that you were paying attention as I was talking. Just because of that, I'm just glad to be in the number with you. I'm glad when you come around, even if you don't bring me any flowers, even if you don't show up with wine and cheese, even if you don't show up with money in your pocket, even if you don't buy me anything, just the fact that we are in relationship with each other, that's good enough for me. And that's what God says to us. Just because we are in relationship, you ain't got to do anything else. If you do something else, it's because you are choosing to, because the relationship is so rich that it overflows to the point where you want God to know just how much you appreciate it, just how much you enjoy God's presence, just how much you enjoy the relationship, just how good it is, even when it's checking you, even when it's challenging you, even when it's keeping you on your pins and needles, because you want to make sure that you are doing right by God. Even in those moments when it's hard, I'm so glad that we are in relationship that I don't mind going to church. I don't mind helping feed the hungry. I don't mind doing any of those things because the relationship is so rich and so good. That's why the psalmist says, taste and see that the Lord is good. And when you're able to have that kind of relationship, everything else just flows from that. It doesn't flow from fear. It doesn't flow from sin. It doesn't flow from obligation. It doesn't flow from the Old Testament. It flows out of the gift of relationship. And if we are able to separate the obligation from the gift, like I do this, because some of y'all, that's what you're doing. You're going to church. My mama did that. She went to church just because she thought she had to. You know how I know? Because on Sunday mornings when you woke up, my mama was already in the kitchen cooking. Already. And in the kitchen, there was a TV that was stuck in a little nook on the counter. And the TV would always be playing. I really want to say this is Charles Stanley. I really want to say that's who it is. She would be having church as she is cooking her breakfast for her, breakfast for us, breakfast for my dad. She would be having church. And I know she was having church because she would be singing along with the hymns. She'll be having an amen corner, a call and response to what he would say. Sometimes she would stop so she could take a note because she didn't want to forget the words that came out of his mouth. She's having church. And then when the worship service ended, she would cut the TV off, make sure the stove is off, make sure we're ready to head on out the door, and then we would go to church. And one day I said, ain't you been to church? Like, I don't understand why we got to go to church. You done been to church. She said, oh, yeah, I got to go see my friends. I got to go be in the I Love Bible class. What you mean? Like, are you kidding me? I'm not about to miss the fellowship of my fellow Christians. No, that's why I'm there. I might get something out the sermon. I might listen to it. I mean, that'll just be some icing on the top. But really, I've already been in worship. And so some of us are doing the same thing. We go to church because we feel like we're obligated. That's what we were brought up to do. Like, we got to go. When really you don't. Two things you have to do. Love the Lord their God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. Love your neighbors as yourselves. Do you have to be in a church to do that? Do you have to be in a temple to do that? Do you have to be in a synagogue to do that? Do you have to be in a mosque to do that? No, you do that because you feel like, hey, I want to demonstrate my faith. I want to get fuel for my faith. I want to be iron sharpening iron for my faith. And so I want to go to these places where that can happen because that helps me to grow. That helps me to develop. That's why I'm doing it. But it's not an obligation. If I never went to church again, God not going to send me to hell. And then when you start, I can hear somebody saying, well, what do you do with the verse in the New Testament that says, do not forsake the assembling of yourselves together? So that means you're supposed to be having, being in communion with each other. Yeah, we can do that at a book club. We can do that at a coffee shop. We can do that at somebody's house when we hanging out. Air, puff passing. Drinking something. Bring your own bottle. We can do that there. Just like I think I told y'all about this last week. Miss Major. Her celebration of life story was at Mosaic Templars. Mosaic Templars, for all practical purposes, is a secular building. I mean, if we want to talk, we can have a conversation where we offer up the for your consideration how it could be holy and sacred because of the history that it has, particularly with black folks, with the black community. Yeah, we could have that conversation, but just on its face, it's a secular building. But when the woman stood up and started singing a church song, when she started singing a gospel, I don't even want to say it's a church song. When she started singing a gospel song, because what's the difference between a church song and a gospel song? Gospel song is telling you the good news. Church song may or may not be. Because some of these songs that we singing in church, these 7-11 songs my mama called, where we saying 7 words 11 times, really don't take us, they don't really tell the story. I've said this to a person and they got offended. I said, I really prefer Christian music than gospel music. Because gospel music to me has gotten to the point where it feels to me, and anybody can debate this. I'm open for the debate. It feels to me that it's always about like being, stuck in the muck and the mire. And I need Jesus. Jesus will fix it. I need Jesus to fix it. I need Jesus to come. I'm always in some kind of dilemma where I got to have the Lord, and I'm begging and pleading and begging and pleading and pleading, and it's like, my goodness, I'm just exhausted just listening to this song. Whereas for me, when I listen to Christian songs, it's like, this is the way I feel. Like, it's a story. Like, here I was just walking down the street one day, and I just began to think about and reflect on my life. And I was wondering if I was all alone. And in that moment, there was this man, this spirit, this light that came from, like, whatever it is. And now I was ushered in, and now my life is no longer the same. And I'm like, that feeds me more than just saying the same thing over and over and over and over again without the context of a story. So without the beginning, without the climax, without the denouement, like without all of that. And so when we say that we have to do these things, that is not the truth. And maybe if we change our language, that would help us. I do not go to church because I have to. I go to church because I am so grateful for the relationship that I enjoy with God, that anytime I have an opportunity to share that joy with somebody else, I love to be in the number. That's why we sing that song, glad to be in the service, glad to be in, one more time. Like, I'm just glad to be in the number. I'm glad to be able to just rub shoulders with you, not because I have to, not because I'm going to go to hell if I don't, but because I'm grateful. And out of that gratefulness comes my willingness to do these things. And so asking us to think about fear as currency and sin as currency, how the church is weaponizing those things to make us feel like we are obligated or else. That's something that we need to think about. And so what I was thinking about in getting, again, I'm preparing for the sermon on Sunday. And one of the things that I really thought about today, it was really today that I thought about this piece right here, about how we're so tied to the Bible, right? Like if it's not in the Bible, who said? I don't know who first said it, but I've heard people say this before. God said it, I believe it, and that settles it. So when you ask them, what do you mean God said it? Well, that's why we have the Bible. We've even given the Bible, turned the word Bible into an acronym, basic instructions before leaving earth. So the Bible has become this center point. The Bible has become the crux of the matter. The Bible has become what will get us through. Whatever it is you need, you got to have the Bible. You can find it in the Bible. You got to find your hope, find your faith, find your everything is in this Bible. And yet, I want to pull up a couple of scriptures that challenge that notion. Is everything that we need in the Bible? Is it? Okay, let me pull this up. I'm going to pull up John chapter 20, verse 30. And then I'm going to stay in John. We're going to move just to the next chapter. But first, John chapter 20, verse 30. Listen to these words. I'm going to put them on the screen for us. Usually I will crop out the title that's given in the Bible. I think I told you I found this one Bible called the Lectio Bible. I found it as I was perusing the shelves in Barnes and Noble, where they have the scripture recorded at the very bottom of the page, but there are no verses. Like you see number 30 right here, you see verse 31 right here. There are no verses. It reads more like a story, which I think is a better way to help us digest what's happening. But I left this up here because I felt like it was important for the conversation. So the title of this section of the Bible found in John chapter 20, verse 30, this is the part that you need to know that you may believe. In order for you to shape your faith, in order for you to round out your faith, in order for you to have a better understanding of your faith, this is what you may believe. This is what we need you to consider believing. This should be part of your tenet for yourself. And truly, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. And truly, Jesus did many other signs in the presence of his disciples, which are not written in this book. But these are written that you may believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that believing you may have life in his name. Now, this is John talking. So listen to what John is saying. John is saying in the presence of his disciples. So those who were privileged enough, those who not privileged enough, those who happened to be on the scene when Jesus was there. Jesus is performing all of these miracles. Jesus is doing all of this stuff right before their eyes. But Jesus was doing so much stuff that there's no way we can contain it in this book. But John is saying this. But I've chosen to share this part with you because I believe this is enough for you to know that Jesus is who you should put all of your hope and your faith and your trust in, so that you will come to know Jesus as the Son of God, and by knowing that you will have life in his name. I just needed to pull out this part for you. I know there's a whole bunch more, but I don't have to say that. It's the same thing we do when we're having a conversation with somebody and we're sharing a story and we say something like this. To make a long story short, y'all know you know how we say that? So what are we saying? There's so much more to this conversation. There's so much more to this story, but I'm choosing to leave certain parts out because all you really need to know to understand what I'm saying is this right here. And that's what John is saying. There's so many other things we can talk about, but I believe that for you to believe that Jesus is the Son of God, all you need to know is right here what I'm telling you. This is enough. But for those of us who find ourselves in situations where people say, that the Bible is everything. And then we said the Bible is God's inerrant word. Every word in the Bible was inspired. That it's got to be in the Bible. If it ain't in the Bible, you can't trust it. If it ain't in the Bible, you can't believe it. If it ain't in the Bible, you shouldn't fool with it. Well, that goes against the very words in the Bible. Same thing happens in John 21. So that was John 20. John says the same thing kind of in a different way in 21. Let's pull this up. Now, this is John 21, verses 24 and 25. This is the disciple who testifies of these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. And there are also many other things that Jesus did, which if they were written one by one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. Amen. This is the disciple who testifies of these things and wrote these things, and we know that his testimony is true. And there are also many other things that Jesus did, which if they were written one by one, I suppose that even the world itself could not contain the books that would be written. And let's think about the books that have been written. The books that we have on our shelves right now that we will not consider holy, we will not consider sacred because they're not the Bible. But the Bible declares that if we're going to talk about all of what Jesus did, it's going to be so many books written. So there are some books on your shelf that are holy and sacred. The color purple. People are now in some seminaries, they are treating the color purple as a text in order for you to find God, in order for you to think through your relationship with God, in order for you to have a better understanding of God. They're using the color purple as a text. That is a book that can be used to tell you about the good things of God. This Here Flesh by Cole Arthur Riley. No way in the world you're going to make me believe that that is not a sacred text where she says to us, our goal, our job is to make sure that we are embodying our God, that we don't have Jesus somewhere in the sky and we over here and there's some separation between the two. God ought to show up in us. We ought to be able to feel God. We ought to be able to sense God. We ought to be able to know God in our bodies. That's telling us stuff about God written in a book that the Bible could not contain. And so this idea that we have to be controlled by all of the stuff that people are telling us, not understanding that our bodies are free. Our bodies are free for us to choose how to live in them or how not to live in them. That's our choice. And for those people who say God gives us free will, well, that's what free will is about. How are you going to tell me I have free will to make my own decision, but then say, but if you don't choose this, you're going to hell? Okay, well, what's free about that? And for those people who believe in predestination, so you're saying, well, God already knew from the beginning that it was going to be 144,000 that were going to come to know him. So then what about the rest of us? That God created us to say, oh, okay, I created y'all, but you ain't going to make it. Sorry. Like, think about what we are saying. Does that make sense for God to say, even when I create you, because I know the end from the beginning, I know both of them at the same time. I'm Alpha and Omega. I get you started, and I'm your cross the finish line. For God to say, I'm going to create you in love, because God so loved the world. That's how you ended up with. That's how you ended up with grace. Because God said, I love you so much. I see you hurting, trying to do something that I know you are not equipped to do. So here I come to help you. So God gonna say, I'm gonna come to help you, but I'm only gonna help 144,000 of you. The rest of y'all just ain't no good. You're evil. You're bad. How does that work? It doesn't work. But those are not the conversations we're having at church. Those are not the conversations we're having at Bible study. We're still talking about the woman at the well. We were talking about her this weekend. Some people are still talking about the woman at the well. She wasn't right because she had 6 husbands. What that got to do with anything? Jesus still met her at the well and offered her water that will quench her thirst. She'll never, ever be thirsty again. Even with her 6 husbands and the one you with ain't your husband, Jesus says. So why are we focused on her sex life? because somebody has told us that premarital sex or being free with your body sexually is a sin. Who said that? Oh, it's in the Bible. Yeah, but who wrote that and when? And why? And where? All of those are conversations all of those are key aspects of the conversations that we have to have if we say we want a pure faith, as pure as it can be, because it ain't going to be pure. You know why it ain't going to be pure? Because it's got to do with us, and we are limited by our humanity, so we can't get anything pure. Oh my goodness, especially when it comes to race. Oh my goodness, the white people who say that they want a pure Aryan or white race, I'm like, wait a minute. If that was the goal of the colonizers, why was y'all raping people of color, particularly Black folks, particularly the members of the African diaspora, particularly Africans? If you wanted a pure race, why would you do that? Even in the Old Testament, when the people were they were captured and they were taken over to a foreign land, even when they were able to go back home, some of the people stayed and they intermarried. That happened in the Old Testament. God did not smite them for that. So what I'm hoping to push is this notion that we would dare to confront some of the stuff that we even say out of our own mouths about our faith. Like, do you hear yourself? I have this right here on my piano. My friend June, we have this a wonderful budding relationship. We call each other friend at this point, and we spend time together physically on Thursdays. And so we have this conversation before we start practicing our music for Sunday. And we just talk about just what you do this week, what you got going on, how you feeling, what happened at the doctor's, what's going on, just talking. And I was talking about how I talk to myself, and she was like, I talk to myself too. And she ran across this article that says people who talk to themselves instead of just thinking silently, there are usually 11 reasons why. 11 reasons why you talk to yourself. And so one of the reasons that you talk to yourself is because you want to enhance your focus. And so basically it's like whatever you're thinking about, whatever you're saying to yourself, you want to really pay attention to it. And so sometimes we really have to pause and say, what just came out your mouth? Prime example. My cousin and I were talking about Black women one day. This was a long time ago. We were talking about Black women, and we were talking about our frustration sometimes in Black women's circles. And we were talking about how some of the things that happen really get on our nerves to the point that we were like, bitch. And then we were both like, well, whoa. Let's back up a few minutes. Let's back up. Do you hear what you just said? As a Black woman, the word that just came out of your mouth in response to another Black woman is big. Is that what you want to do? Is that what we want to say? Is that where we want to go? So you're telling me that because my mama used to say this, we could not cuss in my house. The reason we could not cuss in my house is because my mama said only people who have a limited vocabulary need to cuss. Because there are so many other words that you can use to convey your message other than profanity. And so in my house, you were not allowed to use profanity because you, at 3 years old, you had the vocabulary that you needed. 3 years old is usually when you get your vocabulary. You got the vocabulary that you need to express yourself in a different way. Now, of course, later, as an English teacher, I challenged my mama on that notion, but by then she was like, I don't care if you cuss now, you're grown. But in my house, let me tell you how I was gonna raise you. And so now my cousin and I, we do not use that word, like especially not for any woman, but certainly not for a woman who looks like us. Do you hear the words coming out your mouth? We're not gonna make it no term of endearment. We're not gonna make it be cute. We're not going to make it come back. We're not going to trend with it. Now, if that's what you want to do, that's you. But that's not what we're going to do. So sometimes, yes, we have to ask ourselves, even when we talk about God, even when we talk about our faith, do you hear the words that are coming out of your mouth? Does it make sense for you to say that about God? Does it make sense for you to believe that? When God says, come, let us reason together, do you go and sit with God and ask, should I be believing this? Like, am I getting this right? And so that's what I'm asking us to do, Just begin to think more about what we're saying and what we're believing and what we're hearing and what we're choosing to receive. Because just because you hear it doesn't mean you have to receive it. The pastor can say 15 things and you can walk away and say, I'm only going to take this one because the rest of this stuff, I don't even believe it. You can do it. You have the right within your body to do that. Why won't you do that? Probably because somebody told you it was sinful. Probably because somebody told you that you shouldn't do it, so you're scared to do it. And so sin as currency, faith as currency, for me to weaponize these two things to control your body, that's what I'm asking us to consider divesting from. Because I do not believe that God created us. If you believe God created us, and we can talk about the ways you think we got here if God didn't. And I'm open to that because I myself struggle with believing in evolution and also believing that God created, right? So I struggle with both because I'm like, I want to pull from both of these. And why can't I, right? Like, who says it has to be either or? So a person who says I'm an evolutionary person, I believe in evolution, I'm like, I'm right there with you. A person who says I believe in the creation, I'm right there with you. Like, give it all to me. Like, let's just figure it out. Or we don't have to figure it out. We can just say, I believe both and. But asking ourselves if it really makes sense, some of the things that we say out of our own mouths about our God, about our faith, about our convictions, about even if we say that we are atheist, even if we say that we are agnostic, even if we say that we are Gnostic, we put those labels on, okay, I don't believe in God, or I'm not sure if there's really a God. Like, I used to, like, even though we might feel like that, the same person will say at some point, praise Jesus. Come on. Thank you, Lord. Okay, wait a minute. You just said you ain't believe in God, so now you're saying thank you, Lord. Like, which one is it? How you gonna thank the Lord that you don't believe in? Like, what is happening right now? So asking us to really interrogate ourselves at some point. I'm definitely not saying every day. That's not what I'm saying. But when I hear the Bible talk about we should pray without ceasing, I don't think that means we should be praying all the time. I think that means we should be in a posture of prayer. That means a posture of prayer, meaning that I'm already equipped with everything that I need to live my life the way that God would have me to. Oh, wait a minute. Y'all been over here talking all this time? I didn't even see that. I didn't see y'all. If God loves someone so much and they've done all the possible good deeds, work that he would want for them to do, why would he take them so violently? Yes, who you're talking about? Yes, talking about a person who was murdered. You're telling me he loves me so much that he knows every hair on my head, but then he tells someone to harm me? And then we say that he allowed it to happen. God allowed them to harm me. So you let them harm me? The one you say you love so much? You said 613. Okay, yeah. So when I was talking about 10 commandments that turned into 613, yeah, it's too much, especially for a relationship and love that is supposed to be simple and pure. Oh, I didn't put these up on the screen. So that was the one where Takia was talking about if God loves so much, why would he allow somebody to murder us? And then here when she says 613 is too much. And here's Vernon. Vernon says, I go to church for the relationship with the people, which is something beyond church and Bible. Yes, I go to church for the relationship with the people, which is something beyond church and beyond the Bible. And so, Vernon, I feel like, yes, that's what I'm asking us to do. Can we get beyond church? Can we get beyond the Bible? What does our holiness, what does our relationship, what does our faith look like if you do not go to church? And if you take church out of it and take the Bible out, what do you have? And I really believe that some of us have been indoctrinated to believe you have nothing. Without the church and without the Bible, you have nothing. But I don't believe that that's true, not for 1 minute. And so I'm asking all of us to say, wait a minute. You can't tell me that God knows me and loves every inch of me. Because think about parents. I'm not a biological parent, but as a godparent, I love my godson. Do you hear me? Love him. Would do anything and everything I can for him. And he was not even birthed from my body. Imagine those of you who are parents, the baby that you birthed this baby, how much you love this baby. Then you're going to say, I just want you to know, baby, that when you turn 25, somebody going to kill you, but it's okay. I love you so much that I'm going to let God do that for you because that's just how God is. Now, you know you're not going to tell your child that. You know you're not going to tell your child that. So, yes, that's what I'm asking us to do. I'm so sorry that I didn't see y'all. The thing didn't even tell me that y'all were commenting. So, I'm so sorry that I did not. Oh, and Lo, I see up here, Lo says the treasurer of the group. That was Judas was the treasurer of the group. And then define sin. I can't define sin because people keep changing and keep kicking the football down the field. Some people say premarital sex is sin. Some people say wearing makeup to church is sin. Some people say profanity is sin. Some people say alcohol is sin. Some people say wearing pants is sin. Some people say not honoring your mom and dad, that's a sin. Like, I don't know. Now, according to the Greek, sin means to miss the mark. You set a goal for yourself and you do not achieve that goal, therefore you have sinned. It's as simple as that. Not anything you got to go to hell about. Not anything you got to repent about. You wake up the next day and say, look, I didn't reach my goal yesterday. I'm going to put, how many of you all are like that? Like me? Your to-do list. So to-do list, you cross out some, but some of the others you carry over to the next day. And you try to get it done the next day. You cross out those, and if you don't get it done, you carry it over to the next day. So I'm missing my mark every single day. I'm not condemned for that. The next day, I'm going to try to get it right. I'm going to try to finally cross this off. Today, I'm going to do it. And if I don't, I'm going to try tomorrow. That's all that the Bible is saying that sin should be for us. But all of what we have made it, again, is to use it as currency, because now I've scared you with sin and I'm controlling your body because you're so scared about sin. That makes you come to church. That makes you give your tithes. That makes you pray. That makes you. I don't want to be in relationship with nobody that's going to make me be in relationship with you. No, thank you. No, thank you. Thank y'all so much for joining us for the good fight. I'm going to do a better job next week of paying attention to these comments. I cannot believe that the thing didn't tell me that y'all were commenting. I so appreciate y'all. And I can't wait to hear the conversation on next week. All right. Thank you. Bye.